Good evening. Welcome to the January 27th Lebanon City Council meeting. Our first order of business will be the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, move on to the roll call members. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please. Oh, yeah. There you go.
Red. Mike Kincaid.
Present.
Keith Campbell.
Here.
Sandra Jasonowski. Present. Dick Robertson.
Present.
John Copeland.
Here.
Sierra Messenger.
Present.
Robert Hawkins.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, everybody's accounted for. Move on to the approval of the minutes from a previous meeting. We have October 28th, 2024. Any changes or edits to those minutes? Entertain a motion to approve. 8th. Yep. Motion approved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Rob. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, those minutes are approved. All right, moving on to our swearing in tonight for the Lebanon Police Department. Chief Morgan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, we're proud to introduce our two newest officers to you guys and to the community and have Mayor Gentry swear them in. Both officers come to us with 5 years' experience in law enforcement already. So with that, if we could get Jeff Dixon and Nakia to come up.
Actually, you guys switch here quick. Repeat after me.
All right.
I state your name.
I, Jeffrey Dixon,
Solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana
and all laws and ordinances
and all laws and ordinances
of the City of Lebanon.
of the City of Lebanon.
And I will faithfully
And I will faithfully
discharge my duties
discharge my duties
and obey all true orders
and obey all true orders
of the officers appointed over me
of the officers appointed over me
as a member
as a member
of the Lebanon Police Department
of the Lebanon Police
to the
Department
best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. I just want to thank the mayor, thank the council for allowing me the opportunity and trusting me with the opportunity to serve the citizens of Lebanon. So thank you, guys.
If we could get Officer Justin Rose and Commander to come up.
Left hand, right hand up. Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Justin Rose,
Solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana
and all laws and ordinances
and all laws and ordinances
of the City of Lebanon.
of the City of Lebanon.
And I will faithfully discharge my duties
And I will faithfully discharge my duties
and obey all true orders
and obey all true orders
of the officers appointed over me
and officers appointed over me.
as a member of the Lebanon Police Department
As a member of the Lebanon Police Department,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability,
So help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
I just want to say thank you, Mayor, thank you, Council, for accepting me into the police department and serving the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. So if you want to stay, feel free. If you don't, I understand. We'll have a brief recess, and then we do have these doors open, so if you keep talking to a minimum, that'd be great. So we'll stand in recess for about 2 minutes. All right, we will re-adjourn our Lebanon City Council meeting. Move on to old business. I don't have anything on my agenda. Anything from the council? No, sir. Okay, new business then. First item up is the Merit Board nomination for the Lebanon Fire Merit Board for the City Council. I believe you guys had some conversations or worked through who you guys might want to nominate.
Yes, I brought up the name of Steve Day. He's a Lebanon resident, lifelong Lebanon resident, and he's always expressed an interest to be involved on some type of board with the city. He was involved with the July 4th committee for many, many, many years. He may still be on the executive committee, but I've nominated Steve Day to be on the Fire Department Merit Board.
We have a nomination. Are there any other nominations? Okay, is there a second for Steve Day's nomination? Second from Keith. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, congratulations to Steve Day. All right, next item up here will be ordinance 2025-04. Council to consider rezone at 434 North Mountain Zion Road. This ordinance is on first reading. Ben.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council. We'll stay low-tech for this one tonight and use the overhead. What's before you here tonight is a rezone request for the property, which is the existing Subway restaurant that's in the business park. A little bit of history here. When the business park was first developed, that was 2 versions of the Unified Development Ordinance ago. And at that time, we had what was defined as the Planned Business Zoning District, which essentially allowed both commercial and industrial uses, kind of an all-encompassing business district. So the entire business park was all zone planned business, whether it was a commercial use or an industrial use. In the amendment, and the last time the UDO was updated, that planned business zoning district was split into 2, and it became planned business industrial and planned business commercial. Some of you probably remember those zoning district classifications. And at that time, the entire business park was assigned to the planned business industrial zoning classification. The primary users out there are all industrial. And things like hotels and such are also permitted in planned business industrial, but you've got some of these retail users out there that essentially became non-conforming at the time. And so in our most recent UDO update, just last year, planned business industrial became light industrial, planned business commercial became general business. But we still have this situation. We have some of these retail users that are out there that are misclassified in the light industrial zoning classification. So the owner of the Subway out here approached me. They're considering some additional commercial investments out on that site. It's kind of a funny shape, a funny teardrop shape that they have out there that actually goes all the way up to State Road 32. But he's overparked in the Subway, so he has some ability to do some additional development out there, small scale. But any uses that he would be considering out there more closely align with the general business zoning classification rather than the light industrial that it's zoned now. So I suggested to him that his best course of action to start before he looked at any potential investments out there was to rezone that property from light industrial to general business, which is what's before you here tonight. So the process, if you recall, it starts at the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission is an advisory body, and they provide a recommendation to the council on the rezone request, and they look at a variety of different factors when making that determination. And then the council is the one that has a responsibility then to consider the ordinance that would rezone the property. So this was heard at the last Plan Commission meeting, and it comes to you with a unanimous positive recommendation to rezone the property from light industrial to general business. And so that's a quick overview, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions for Ben?
I just have a quick question. I'm trying to remember when we had a meeting when the owner of Subway came in a while ago about his property, and I'm trying to remember exactly. Were you saying that it's going to be hard, like for our standards wise, to develop on that property because of the shape of it?
It is going to be a little bit of a challenge because it's not a rectangle shaped. His biggest challenge right now is that most commercial retail uses aren't permitted in the industrial zoning classification. The other challenge that also brings up is the industrial district has larger setbacks than the commercial district, which further restricts the buildable area. So he benefits by this rezone to get a better list of permitted uses in the commercial retail sector, but then also the general business setback standards will allow him to have more buildable area out there.
Well, even with the rezone, is it feasible to use the other part of the property?
I think it is. If they want to pull it back up, and I'll show a little bit. So the whole northern, probably about a third of his parking area is entirely unused. So he's in fact, there's probably more. I think he's got like 30-some parking spaces out there. Our ordinance right now would only allow like 9 parking spaces for this size use. So he's significantly overparked. So he does have some of the parking area that could be reused in some fashion. And he's got a little bit of area north of that where he might have some room to play with. There's not a lot. So he has some potential to reuse it. But it is going to be restricted. You're not going to see a significant additional user out there. It might be a small, like 1 or 2 tenant space building out there with some parking out front.
All right, I just was curious if it was
Yeah,
even feasible to rework the space to
It
make
is
something work.
You're right. It's a very weirdly shaped property. It actually has frontage on State Road 32, even though that subway building's nowhere close to the state road. But he does have a little bit of room to play with, but he hasn't done necessarily any due diligence on site design yet. He wanted to get the rezone put in place. It does help Subway too to be zoned this way, but it'll give them some ability to go out and have somebody start looking at the site and figure out what might fit out there.
I assume it's a better fit, though, than light industrial for
Yeah,
this site, too. So
absolutely,
that's-
yeah. I was
yeah.
just curious before before.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we may look at is basically a staff-initiated rezone of some of the other commercial areas out there. So we did do a rezone of the hotel to the west there. So it's already zoned general business that you see here, but then everything out front, flapjacks and stuff all on the interstate is still zoned light industrial. So we have some other sites that might make some sense just to initiate a rezone for them because it better aligns with their use.
You actually probably don't want light industrial right there along the interstate anyway.
Not really what we would want necessarily in a redevelopment.
Hey, question, man, can you go back that picture a minute?
Can you bring up there we go.
It has nothing to do with this property, but the one to the west,
Yes,
the hotel,
yeah.
is that that's a gravel parking lot?
I can't remember if it's gravel or if it's just really bad pavement. But that has kind of, it's become an overflow area for the hotel too, although I think it's rarely used as well. That hotel owner has talked to us previously a number of years ago about maybe looking at doing something at that portion of the site too, some other commercial retail option in that southern portion of the hotel as well. And that's why they initiated the rezone to commercial a few years ago.
My question was going to be if that was a gravel parking lot. How come it's not paved by now? That's my question.
I believe it's paved, but it's not in the greatest shape.
Okay.
Any further questions about the ordinance? All right, Rob, will you read it, please?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Ordinance 2025-04 is a rezone of property and amending the zoning map of the city. Whereas SK Sunrise LLC filed its application for rezone before the City of Lebanon Plan Commission, again seeking to rezone approximately 1.31 acres located at 434 North Mount Zion Road and described in Exhibits A and B from light industrial to general business. The City of Lebanon Plan Commission held its public hearing on January 21st, 2025, and voted 9-0 to send a favorable recommendation of the rezone to this body, the Common Council, on January 22nd, 2025. Therefore, be it resolved, this council finds that SK Sunrise LLC is the owner of the property. It seeks to have the property located at 434 North Mount Zion Road, described in Exhibits A and B, rezoned from light industrial to general business. And this council has paid reasonable regard to the comprehensive plans, current conditions, and character of the structures and uses in each district, the most desirable use for which the land in each district is adopted, and the conservation of property values throughout the jurisdiction.
Okay, thank you, Rob. The ordinance is read on first reading. Any public comments concerning ordinance 2025-04 at this time? Okay. Seeing none, we'll take that up at our next meeting, which will be February 10th at 7:15 p.m. All right, next item up, ordinance 2025-05. This is establishing a small purchase policy for the city. Kevin.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to bring this before you. We talked about this, I think it was in November, and then it kind of got tabled just due to a lot of other business before the council. So just bringing this back before you. This is ordinance 2025-5 is for the establishment of a small purchase policy, and that's subject to Indiana code that allows us to do this. That's Indiana Code 5-22-10. This ordinance would essentially be replacing an ordinance that we passed in 1998, 98-4, which has become our code, 30.06. So in that 1998 ordinance, we did establish the Board of Public Works as the purchasing agent for the city, and we did state some exempt purchasing powers under 25,000. So what this code really does is there weren't a lot of details provided in procedurally in that 98 ordinance. So what this new ordinance really does is replacing that. It fills in some gaps that were left. It also codifies what we think the intent of that ordinance was, as well as then incorporates all the other purchase categories in the state code. So this provides a one-stop shop that talks about our small purchase policy, but as well references, our adherence to the other state codes and the other purchasing thresholds that it provides. So essentially, there are 4 thresholds. Under $25,000 can just be a direct purchased item. 25 to 50 requires 2 invited quotes. 50 to 150 per state statute would require 3 invited quotes, and then over $150,000 requires public bidding. So again, all of that is in here now, describes all those procedures, and I think captures what the intent was in 1998, as well as, as I said, codifying all the state code relating to purchasing and procurement of public works. Turn that over to Rob if he's got anything further to add, but I think I've tried to capture everything that's in there.
Rob, anything you want to add?
I would just add, Mayor and Council, that one of the things that the prior code section, it just has that the purchasing agent will be the Board of Works. So in this ordinance, and talking with Kevin, we thought that it could be the Board of Works or the Board of Works designee to at least have like one central potential person. In this case, we're thinking Kevin's doing so much of it. So just to create some synergy here. So the departments know who to go to, much like we would do with any public requests for documents that we send to Tanya's office and the clerk treasurer, just to, again, have some, I think, efficiency from that standpoint. So that's really the only other change. And as Kevin indicated, we just included more of the statutory references in this code so people have a little more guidance than what was in there before.
As well as extensive reporting requirements are now included into this. So the purchasing agent would be required to report all purchases made throughout the year to the Board of Public Works and Safety.
Yeah, and part of the issues we're running into as well, we've run into in the past is, especially if it's falling under that $50,000 threshold where with getting the 3 quotes, things like that, we've had trouble getting enough people to respond to that sometimes, or it's kind of a unique, I remember with the fire station with the heating and cooling, that kind of ran into some issues with that, right? So it's really trying to help us kind of move these projects along that we know need to be fixed, and we know the person to do it. It can help us solve these problems a little bit faster. So obviously, we're not talking about huge level purchases here with that. So, and obviously, it has to be signed off usually by me or department head. We're working on this too. So. Questions,
The only
concerns?
question is, item G, the reporting and record keeping, talks about an annual report from the purchasing agent. Or submit an annual report to the city council summarizing all the purchases and stuff. Have we thought about how that's going to be done? I mean, I'm sure that's going to be done.
I'm sure we could, so whoever is being the kind of the designee would just have probably a document, right? And we could then submit, hey, here's what we purchased, and if there's any questions, concerns, that could be worked through. Obviously, usually the updates are given at the Board of Works meetings of if there's projects happening, things are being bought. that comes through on the claims that are still approved at the Board of Works as well, too. So I'm sure we could give a report, but it'd be whoever's the designee would create that submission to them.
We're really doing this already. I think the thing that we would add to that would be a running log of all purchases. So, I mean, I frequently come before Board of Works for any and all purchases what we're making. So that would not change. I'd still be reporting to the Board of Works as their agent, as the public purchasing agency for the city. I think the only additional step would be that would then prompt the creation of a log for all those purchases and how they were procured, and that would then be delivered to City Council at the end of the year as a year-end
Yeah,
report.
an annual report, yeah.
Yeah.
What it says, yeah.
We could probably do it in writing versus going through and reading it all, but.
True.
Will it also be money that they already have in their budgets?
Correct, yeah, this is,
Not
the-
going to come back and ask. for
correct, yeah,
more
this isn't a blanket, you now can spend whatever you want under $25,000. It still has to be within any city budget. It's just the procurement process to actually purchase the item.
This is not appropriating any money to any line or any department. This is just governing the process.
Yeah, if John wanted to go buy 100 basketballs, he could go and buy it from the sporting goods store and not have to get 3 different sporting goods stores to give him a quote on it.
I just remember we had issues on, one of the things, fire station or something, some unit or something, and.
Well,
it
and
took us
there's also
time.
exceptions written into this, as well as provided into the code for things like unique equipment, say a fire truck or something like that. Say, there's also provisions for like savings or emergency purchases. There's all kinds of provisions in the state code that this references. So that it would not change anything we've done really in the past. Perhaps the most robust change would be those small purchases and then the annual reporting.
Well, I think it was something we were waiting on that was less than bid, and you were trying to get quotes on, and you got one, and you were trying, it just took you a couple, 2 or 3 months to get 3 quotes for.
Yeah, the
item,
generator at
and
the fire
it just
department,
took
yeah.
ridiculous time.
Yeah, it may have been the generator or the
Something.
rooftop unit replacements, I can't remember,
Yeah,
or
something
then there
just
was the,
held the process up.
or we may be thinking about the plumbing repairs at the police station that took some time.
Questions for Kevin from council this time? Okay, I'll have Rob read, please.
Yeah, just one point of clarification. I know at least in my copy, in talking with Kevin as of Friday, we initially were looking at doing an amendment and creating a new section. I know we made the changes internally, but the copy I have shows that this still has the citation of, I'll read through it, but 30.08 on page 2, and that should be 30.06 because we are going to essentially amend and replace what's in there as opposed to creating any potential confusion by just adding additional information on. So I'll when I read through it, I'll make the notation just so you see it. But again, I know the copy that I had at my office, we made that, but you may have the one that doesn't have it. Yeah.
So do you actually just want to make an amendment? Can the council make
I
an amendment
believe the
now?
one that we distributed with the agenda says 30.06.
Does it? Okay.
Mine says 08.
Oh,
Yeah, mine says 08.
Yours it says 08? Okay, what section is that?
It's on page 2. So, I mean, if you want, I can, yeah.
Our
yeah.
page has 306.
It's C in definitions and also
Item C
in
says
H
3.08.
exceptions.
So,
So it's
here-
intended to
up here
be
it says 3.06.
an amendment to amend and replace 30.06. So if there's any reference, which there's 2 others that say 30.08, that should be 30.06.
So would the council want to make a motion to amend the ordinance to correct the section number from 30.08 to 30.06?
Moved.
We have a motion. Second from Mike. All those in favor say aye of just the amendment. All say aye. Okay, the ordinance has now been amended. Thank you, council. All right, now go ahead, Rob.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor, Council. Again, ordinance 2025-05 is an ordinance establishing a small purchase policy for the city of Lebanon. So again, Indiana Code 522.8 sets forth the statutory requirements for small purchases by a political subdivision and permits the purchasing agent of the political subdivision to establish this small purchase policy. Pursuant to City Ordinance 98-04, codified as Section 30.06 of the Lebanon, Indiana Code of Ordinances, the city previously designated the Board of Works as a purchasing agent for the city and established certain policies relating to the public purchasing in accordance with Indiana law. The city now desires to amend and replace certain provisions of 30.06 to establish a small purchase policy. Again, that's defined as small purchase policy to streamline the procurement procedures for purchases that do not exceed the monetary thresholds established by Indiana Code. It's the intent of the city to establish a small purchase policy in compliance with all requirements of state law. So therefore, be it resolved, this council finds that Title III, Chapter 30, Section 30.06 of the Lebanon, Indiana Code of Ordinance is hereby deleted in its entirety and replaced as follows. And I'll just hit these highlights because Kevin went through them. But Section 30.06 is the small purchase policy, again, in the Code of Ordinances for the city of Lebanon. A is the purchasing agent, and again, it's the Board of Public Works is designated as the purchasing agent for the city with all powers and duties authorized under Indiana law. And this purchasing agency, the Board of Works, shall designate from time to time purchasing agents as they may become necessary. Section B establishes the small purchase policy, again, effective this day, January 27, 2025, a small purchase policy. The definitions are in Section C with small purchase, the purchasing agent, and offeror. And Section D talks about the applicability, and E is the small purchase procedure. Again, that in 1, it talks about the general requirements, and it has the threshold breakdowns in A, B, and C. Section F talks about the purchasing limitations. And G, as we were talking about, is the reporting and record keeping. H does have some exceptions that this council obtain a waiver if necessary. And again, the effective date shall be in full force and effect upon its passage and adoption and in accordance with Indiana law.
Okay, thank you, Rob. The ordinance has been read on first reading. Any further discussion from council? Any public comment concerning ordinance 2025-05? Okay. We'll take that up at our next meeting, which again will be February 10th at 7:15 p.m. All right, next ordinance up here is ordinance 2025-06, modifying the water and wastewater construction standards. And this is on first reading. Jeff.
Good evening, council, mayor. My name is Jeff Jacob. I'm the attorney for Lebanon Utilities. Tonight, with me to do the heavy lifting on the technical issues or questions, should you have any, is Ryan Ottinger, the water wastewater operations manager. Tonight in front of you is an ordinance updating the water and wastewater construction standards. In short, this brings the technical standards which govern the construction of private facilities for use and connection to the utility system or to be turned over to the utility, brings us into compliance with new practices and standards. Updated manufacturing information, some new materials that the utility has decided to allow to connect to its system. And that really exhausts the extent of my technical knowledge. I believe that these standards have been sent to Mr. Krulik. And in short, we believe that they're a little bit more user-friendly and consistent with industry practices and standards. I do tell you, would offer that this has been sent to you with unanimous approval in December from the Utility Service Board. And we have been working with the development community, letting them know that these standards were coming for any pending projects. And we would like to start off this year as soon as possible with these standards in effect. And for a variety of reasons, this was the meeting that we were able to get to first. So with that in mind, I'm not aware of anything controversial in these. As mentioned, they have been discussed with various projects that are upcoming. And so with that, we would ask that you waive a second reading and adopt these this evening if that doesn't cause the council any heartburn. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jeff. Any questions for Jeff or I do see Ryan in the back, if we want to quiz him on his technical knowledge, now is our opportunity.
I just want to make sure you did say that the parties pending and coming up are aware of the changes that may be affecting them, and everybody's all on the same page?
Yeah, that's to the best of my knowledge, yes.
Okay.
So these are, I think Ryan would indicate to you, these are a little bit more project-friendly, if you will, or because they're updated standards, these materials and practices are a little more in line with what the common practices are today. So there should not be any surprises in these. One example is allowing for PVC lines rather than ductile iron. And that's a change that makes it a little more, because of difficulty of obtaining materials, that's been some waivers that they've done. And so we're codifying that. Ryan, anything that I missed or you would add to that?
To Jeff's point, we didn't take anything out. We actually added items that would be more developer-friendly or home builder-friendly. In the past, we've only had only improved ductile, but with some shortages, we allowed PVC if a developer would request it. Now, they can just put it on their plans, and so they don't have to fill out any request forms or anything like that. And then the biggest update is they're actually more user-friendly on the website. They're PDF forms, so you can just type in a search. If you type in water lines, anything that has to do with the water lines will come up and make it searchable, so a developer can get on there and actually move around a lot easier, and they're more user-friendly.
Ryan, just from comparing us to our neighboring communities, our peers, things like that, I mean, this kind of puts us more in line with them, or are we kind of maybe ahead of them a little bit? I'm just kind of curious, just comparison-wise.
It's very comparable. Ductile is, for example, a lot of surrounding communities were using PVC. And then during COVID, ductile became very difficult to get. So we made some adjustments on that. And so this just puts us in line with any neighboring community will have pretty much the same standards as us. There may be some small deviations, but as far as materials go, it's very comparable.
So we're catching up with other communities. We're not necessarily letting people try things that haven't been proven yet.
Oh, no, this is very, very standard, very common practice in larger communities. And we have some housing additions, some newer ones that have already used PVC, and they've had great success. The only caveat that we have is if you start the addition with PVC, that you don't mix and match. The whole thing has to be one or the other, and they just indicate that on their plans. Now they can just indicate on their plans. Before, they had to fill out a waiver for us to approve it, and they no longer have to do that. So it's actually more developer friendly than what we previously had. So this keeps us very standard in the industry.
Hey, Ryan, I just got a question on the detail drawing. You got 20-foot utility easement. There's like 2-foot curb and gutter, 5-foot planting strip, 5-foot sidewalk, and another 20-foot utility easement. This is on the local residential street. What I'm looking at is that's in some of these additions we have it right in our front door, right in the garage.
So on the easement, the utility easement, that would be, it wouldn't just be water. It would be a shared easement with whatever utilities would be in that area.
I understand that. I'm just saying there's 20 feet of utility easement. I'm saying we're looking 30 foot from the back of the curb. On some of these housing additions we have, they don't have 30 foot from the back of the curb.
And we make adjustments in TAC on that. If the houses are closer to the road, then we make easement adjustments. That's just the standard. But there are applications to where that we will make that smaller to make sure that they have the same amount of green space.
If they plant a tree in the utility easement, what are you going to do?
If they plant a tree, we prefer them not. If there is a tree there and we have to do a repair, then we would have to remove the tree. we don't.
You'll remove all the landscaping and
No, there-
everything in utility?
There are trees in.
I know that's theirs concern if they plant that. I
Yes.
understand that.
Yeah, we would obviously prefer them not, but if there's a tree there, or if space doesn't allow for, on a new housing addition, decorative trees, then they can put them close to the road, and then we'll just make accommodations if and when we would have to address that.
Is the easement size a change, or is that our current standard?
It's the same.
Our current standard is 20, Dick. Okay. You just think it's too
I
big?
have had to deal with it for years, and
Okay.
it's like, there's just no room for it. There's no
There,
room for it.
no, there's not a lot of room for any of the stuff that needs to go in.
But essentially,
On
though,
a-
oh, sorry, go ahead.
On a side note, I think that this is a conversation that the council needs to have, reassessing our easements that we have and how it's affecting all of our new neighborhoods that are going in and around, because a lot of the new neighborhoods are not allowing people to have full use of their backyards and front yards due to easements, drainage easements and other types of easements, utility easements and things like that. And a lot of people are not aware of all the easements and stuff. So on a sidebar, I think that this is a conversation that the council needs to have of easements at a later time.
And also, did you say that you hadn't been to the other commissions yet? We were the first ones
So the
that
utility
you had
board,
presented it?
the utility board has approved these standards unanimously. That would be the only board or commission that we would be seeking approval from, and that's what brought us here tonight.
When you said earlier we were the first ones, you hadn't been in front of the other, who were you talking about?
I don't believe that, I don't recall saying that. I apologize.
Because you were asking for us to waive the second reading, so
Oh.
I want to make sure that anybody and everybody that needs to hear this, that it might be a little more
no,
savvy about all this than us.
Yeah, so in terms of, so these standards have been sent to Mr. Krulik, and these have been in terms of TAC and ongoing projects. The, Mr. Ottinger and the engineering group have been communicating what changes were forthcoming in these new standards.
These are more expansive, right? They're more flexible, they allow more things versus, we're not making it more restrictive, we're making it more allowable, right?
So there are changes like this. If you have a new manufacturer that we are allowing for a elbow or a valve or a pipe, those are being listed in here as acceptable materials that would be part of these standards. So I'm certainly can't speak to the every technical element here, but that's my understanding, is that we're opening things up, we're making it a little easier and more up to date. It's not that we've fallen behind. These are every couple years you have to do this, and we're on that cycle. So this is nothing out of the ordinary that I'm aware of. To your issue with the easement, we have made accommodations in certain areas for reductions in easements, and this is just what our standard is. And I can speak for the Water Wastewater Department as well as the Electric Department. As somebody that handles the easements a lot, we are very, very flexible with easements, probably more so than we should be. But this is the standard. But we look at the design of a project and how we can fit it in. One of the things that we do is we discourage putting an easement in a backyard, to your point. Now, we allow folks to utilize subdivisions. Our easements are pretty fair in that we discourage plantings. Any structure we prohibit, save for we allow fencing, common residential fencing to go through our easement, which is mildly uncommon. So
I know drainage easements, you are not allowed to put a fence on it. I know that utility, it's a little different, but.
yeah. Drainage easement's not my lane.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's part of what I was referencing to from before, about the council needing to talk about that, because it's happening to a lot of people in Lebanon with our new neighborhoods going in. Because like you said, our backyards half of it is an easement, and you can't, I mean, you're discouraged from planting trees and using, a whole backyards, and people aren't aware of that. So anyways, sorry.
Absolutely. No,
Sidebar,
your
sidebar.
point's well taken. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question about that, though. Isn't that in their document when they buy that house? But it's in there.
It's in there, but the plans that they give you the whole common area. Yes, it's your plot, but like for me, for instance, in my backyard, I have my backyard, the easement, then the other easement that's on the other side of that, and then I have a common area on the hill. And when they give you your property platting, they put all of that in there. So unless you go out there with the tape measure in your backyard and actually try to see exactly how far, it may be confusing to people when they first view that because they're not used to looking at that. And it's not clear, it's not a clear communication, like to people who aren't in the industry and understand that.
The other challenges too, we have people that will go and put a fence up without getting a fence permit, right? So they put a fence into the drainage easement like they're not supposed to. And then their neighbor does it the right way and comes and gets a permit, and we're like, nope, you can't put a fence there. And then the fences don't match up, because it's like.
About the realtors, shouldn't that be some of their build a house? Shouldn't it be on you guys?
They're just trying to sell a house, Keith.
Well, I know, but I'm just telling you. Is that not
It's
true?
all in the legal paperwork.
Well, why not?
I mean, in my case, if I was aware of the drainage issue that some people have, or that issue with the, the limitation on that backyard, I would certainly convey that to the client.
Because you're a good realtor, right?
Yes.
Fortunately, we can't control every realtor, though.
Yeah, and I will tell you, just by way of practice, there was an old subdivision in town that we had some struggles with that somebody's may or may not live in that subdivision, that we had some real struggles with where there was an old easement in the back, utility easement in the backyards. And we have really, really changed based on experiences from that, really tried to shift our focus to putting any sort of utilities in front yards so we can utilize right-of-way, sidewalk area, and roads so that we don't need as much space. But your point is well taken, and we are really trying. I can tell you that Ryan's team very much tries to avoid those rear yard easements and put them in the front yards. So, but comment well taken.
Ryan, this is, I guess, one last question, just to clarify. So is there anybody that would be negatively impacted, such as they have a plan approved today, they've ordered all the parts? Is there anything that they have ordered or ready to build, but then this new standards wouldn't allow that, right? So they would be negatively impacted where they couldn't build what they'd already ordered? Or is it more just, again, where it gives them more options?
Yeah, it's actually the opposite. So any old standard that we have before this adoption is still in place. So whatever was approved or is coming up, if they've even bought material beforehand and it's not quite been approved, if they adhere to the old standards, it will still be viable. This will actually just give them flexibility on name brand hydrant, the name of a hydrant. We only had one in there. We've expanded that. Some of the materials we've expanded. Backfill we've expanded between stone and sand. So it's actually would be to the benefit. But if they purchased it based on an old set of standards, it would still be 100% usable and be approved.
So no one would be a situation where they'd be harmed by this? They would?
No,
Okay.
no, absolutely not.
Okay. Any further questions, comments?
The only question I have with that, though, if somebody's already put the tree there, what you just said earlier, how does that, what you just said, how's that?
That's different, though. This doesn't go out and get new easement for the utilities, right? This is just setting a standard. It still goes through the development plan, TAC review, all that stuff, right? So this is for new things. This doesn't go out and say, hey, claim all 20 feet everywhere, so.
So the easement standard is remaining the same, and that the easement language, which I think is really what we're talking about, that has not changed. Yep.
I have one question for you. On the first page, you got a misspelling.
Oh, boy.
Very bottom. In the govern, not govern.
Thank you, with that correction. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Evan, can you tell me what the setback is for front of a house in a subdivision today?
Thanks for the chance to speak. Yeah, I believe our standard residential setback is 20 feet. So, and that is to...
Feet from back of the curb?
No, from the right-of-way. That is to provide for parking forward of the garage doors. So, and I guess to the easement, I mean, yes, these are our standards, but in the written design standards, there's also standards related to pipe material and depth that dictate required easement widths. So a lot of those things are done on a case-by-case basis on what actual easement is needed, and that's all then governed by plating procedures that establishes those easements. So I think that might address some of your concerns. But yes, the front yard setback is typically 20 feet from the right-of-way.
And that's what I look at, from the setback to 20-foot easement, that puts it right up to the front door of the garage or the front door. And it's just like, that's all easement right there. I know the resident should know that if I put something there, something happens there and they have to come in or do something, it's replaced at my expense, because I put it there in their easement. I understand that.
And we still require front yard landscape plantings,
Yeah,
regardless of this easement, that have to be installed,
Yeah,
so.
Exactly.
And we work with to establish species lists that are, I guess, more sympathetic to the utilities that are in that area. Probably the bigger concern we see from residents is rear yard easements, because things like fences aren't allowed in easements, and that.
Our biggest problem is the drainage easement in the back, more than likely, and that's been a problem.
Right.
That's a problem everywhere. It's not just a problem in Lebanon, that's a problem in every community. They have a drainage easement in the back. You end up residents end up putting a fence up without a permit. They end up putting a pool outbuilding. Outbuilding is put up back there, and they've been there for years, and they got overhead utilities running down the backyard, and next thing you know, you got new lines that got to be put up and new poles got to be put in. And, all these fences all got to be removed for them to get back there,
It's something we have to deal with.
It's in every community.
Right. All public works systems, whether it's Lebanon Utilities or our storm sewers, we have to protect our easements so that we can maintain those pieces of infrastructure in perpetuity, and that can be problematic for some homeowners.
The only way we can deal with it is deal with it at the very beginning when the subdivisions are going in, and we have to enforce it all the time.
Every we need to make sure they all know it.
When previously when I first started, the developments that were shown to us, and I know, Dick, I think you might have objected, but the plots were a lot smaller, and you were asking for them to make them bigger. Well, I can see that, because if they're making smaller plots and then you've got all of that up there, it just makes no sense.
That's more of a developer decision than marrying with the city standards. We don't have aggressively oversized easements, and that we need space for safety reasons for the crews to get in and be able to work, and they are very diligent about attempting to offset. Let's say that there's a water main, they try to offset onto one side of the easement rather than running down the middle. Now, trying to get in there before other utilities, and there's other issues, but they do typically a pretty good job of that. So we agree with you. What we've set out is what our standard is. And I could tell you, and I think Mr. Krulik would suggest to you that everybody works with the project to work around those issues, but we've set out what our standard is. And so, if there's right-of-way in an area, we'll marry that up and be able to work with the city so that we're not taking up too much. But again, I would put a lot of that back on the developer. And, I understand the concern about notifying, making sure people are aware of it, because we don't like to be the ones that show up knocking on a door saying, hey, we've got to take your fence down, trust me. So we try to be accommodating in that, and we try to be proactive so we don't have those issues.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Kevin. Further comments from council?
What is 20 foot the standard in surrounding communities too? I know you said our easements are general, but for the front, from the front, is that a standard? Is that comparable? I mean, that just seems like a lot. Is that comparable to the surrounding communities, that amount?
So it has to do with the size of the water main, let's say, or sewer main in an area. I can't tell you what is comparable in other communities. I can tell you what, in working with various engineers, that's the recommended standard that they are suggesting. I would think that the crews would agree. I mean, if you think about it, and I know it seems large, but if you think about, it's not just where the water main is, it's getting in there with equipment to repair it, middle of the night kind of thing. You have to be able to think about, and where do you put the dirt? Where do you work? Where is equipment? Where do people exist in that space and not step outside that and into somebody's property? So it's not a lot of space.
Aren't you responsible for everything from the main, where it branches off, where the meter is, all the way to the house? So, right? Is that how?
No.
You stop at the meter?
Yeah.
And then, okay, sorry. I'm just trying to run through it in my head.
Lateral that goes from our facilities to the home is on the homeowner, but the main, which often runs through front yards, is our very much preferred practice. That is ours to maintain and we're responsible for.
Is that not basically between the curb and the sidewalk?
Sometimes, not always.
Sometimes.
Most of them are.
In the historic parts, certainly,
under
but
the sidewalk.
yeah, but not always, though.
One of those two things, isn't it, most of them?
Sometimes, not always.
Sometimes, not always.
If that happens, then that, when we have to fix it though because of that, then it's our responsibility.
Repair the sidewalk? Or what did you?
If it's,
Yeah, so we try to return it to a like condition, and our easement sets that out, that we will return it to a commercially reasonable standard, I think is to grade and seed, and then we'll patch areas that we've disturbed. We don't replace, so if we've cut through a driveway, we're not repaving, but we'll patch it. So, yep, yeah, so.
what we destroyed, we'll fix what we did.
Correct. I think that's pretty well spelled out in our easements, and
As long as
so,
everybody knows what it is.
Okay, I'll have Rob read the ordinance and correct the scrivener's error, as well as in the whereas statement, I believe. From government to govern, is that correct, Keith? Yep.
Which one is it? I don't even.
The
Very bottom first page says
government.
government, should it be govern?
But on the first page of GOV. Very bottom, last line.
Oh, wait, we're on 06, aren't we?
They're on 06.
06, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. You're on good.
All right. Ordinance 2025-06 is ordinance modifying the water and wastewater utility construction standards. Whereas the city owns and operates by and through the Lebanon Utility Service Board, which is defined as the board, a municipally owned utility known as Lebanon Utilities. Again, that's the utility. This council has adopted the utility from time to time, has revised the construction standards for public utility facility additions that have been privately constructed in order to facilitate third-parties constructing utilities for connection to the various systems and or dedications to the utility. This council adopted ordinances 95-07 and 2020-04, approving certain city utility construction standards for water and wastewater collections and storm sewer systems. The revised water and wastewater utility construction standards reflect compliance with the new laws regulations, construction techniques, and technology advancements in order to ensure the operation of safe, reliable, and efficient utilities. This council desires to update those construction standards for public utility facility additions by adopting the attached new water and wastewater construction standards, the previously adopted standards through Ordinance 95-7 and 2020-04 should be superseded by those new water and wastewater standards approved herewith. Therefore, the utility board also adopted its resolution, as Mr. Jacob indicated, recommending the adoption of the following standards. So therefore, be it resolved that this council finds that the attached construction standards for privately constructed water facilities for connection to the utility's water system and/or dedication to the utility are hereby approved. The attached construction standards for privately constructed wastewater facilities for connection to the utility wastewater systems and/or dedication to the utility are also approved. Utility is instructed to maintain publicly accessible copies of water and wastewater standards on file with the Office of the Utilities and the City Planning Department. The new construction standards superseded ordinances 95-07 and 2020-04. The utility shall have the final determination in its sole exclusive discretion to determine the design, materials, and specifications for circumstances not covered or detailed by the construction standards, and all other elements of ordinances 95-07 and 2020-04 remain in effect where not in conflict with the attached new standards.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Is there any public comment concerning ordinance 2025-06? Please state your name for the record and keep comments to 3 minutes if possible.
Jody Stewart. It wouldn't be a city council meeting if I didn't talk, so here I am. I have a question. You approved minutes at the beginning of the meeting, and were those minutes from October? Is that what I heard?
Yes.
What happened to November, December, and January? Have those been approved yet?
No, they haven't. I was out for surgery the entire month of November, so I am still catching up on the minutes. The meeting from 11/12 and then 11/25, where there were like 20 ordinances, I've been typing for 3 days solid, so.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I heard that correct, that we're
Yep.
approving for October.
Yep.
And then I don't really know a lot about wastewater, but, and of course, I am the only one here speaking for the city, and I'm a rural consumer. But I have heard that a lot of people are receiving contracts now that are asking to sign up for insurance to cover things that aren't part of what you guys are going to pass here as far as what the city is responsible for covering to the house or to the main. And I know a lot of people have concerns about that as far as the cost that's going to be involved and what you guys are asking now for them to take insurance out on and cover expenses for things like this that you aren't going to cover.
So we're not asking anyone. That's a advertisement from a company that's selling a service. That is
Okay.
not related to the city in any way.
Okay. And then I would agree with some of the comments that have been made. I know when people buy houses, they aren't told certain things. Like Sierra said, they come in, they buy a house, they buy a lot, and they expect that whole lot to be theirs. And you can't depend on realtors, to be honest. Mike, you probably are, but I have some friends that bought a house on a lake that had a boat, and they were so excited. They just bought their first house on a lake with a boat. The realtor failed to tell them that the lake only allowed a certain size of motor. So therefore, their brand new house on the lake that they just purchased with their boat, they can't use their boat unless they switch out their motor. So I think that if you guys are going to do things like this, the buyer needs to beware, or the builder needs to put specifics in place on what the homeowners are allowed to put on the lots, if they're allowed to put fences, if they're not. The people need to be made aware. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Completely agree. Any further public comment? Okay. There was a request from utilities to move this to second reading. Obviously, we had some good discussion about it. Does the council have any concerns? Again, we talked about this as anybody that could have purchased potential materials now, those still be they would be allowed, right? We're not restricting, we're actually expanding. So is there any concern with getting these standards in place sooner, or is there a will from a council on that? Does that have to be unanimous? So I just want to make sure there's any concerns with that. People made their voices heard on that.
Have you talked to the realtor, or not the realtor so much, but you got aware of it?
The Ryan's team, as well as the engineering group, have worked with projects that have been in process and made them aware of these forthcoming changes.
They're aware of it, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But anything they would have purchased beforehand is still allowed, right? So we're actually, if anything, they could save some money by buying a different material if they needed to, right? But
Yeah,
anything
especially on the PVC component. Yeah.
The ones that's building now are just getting ready to, that we've approved.
Correct. I'm not aware of any concern there. Yeah.
There's no change.
Those
are all allowed. Yep.
Nothing will change as of today.
Yeah, yeah,
From
correct.
this date forward, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Correct. Thank you for the comment,
Just
though.
wanted to
Yeah.
make sure of that.
Questions, concerns, hesitations with that?
I'll make a motion. Do we need a motion?
We need a motion to suspend the rules.
I'll make a motion, we suspend the rules and go to second reading.
Motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Keith, and there does have to be unanimous. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, we have suspended the rules and are moving ordinance 2025-06 to second reading. Rob just did a great job reading it again. Any further discussion, comments from council? Would entertain a motion then concerning ordinance 2025-06.
Make a motion, we approve ordinance 2025-06.
Motion to approve, is there a second? Second from John. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Thank you, council. Okay, we'll resume our regular scheduled meeting, go back to normal order. And next up will be ordinance 2025-07. This is modifying the electric utility construction standards.
Good evening, again, council. I'm here tonight with Jeff Carino, who's the electric operations manager. Similar issue, we are updating the electric construction or installation manual. This, again, is how we interact with the public in terms of what standards govern our construction practices and advise them of what our expectations are for connection to our system. This is an old manual that is long in need of update. It is a more user-friendly version, more reflective of the practice of what we have put into place really in our day-to-day operations. And we've tightened up and clarified some confusing areas where it's been easier for us to explain from our old standards. We would also like this to be in effect sooner rather than later, though a little less urgent. And this urgent's not the right word, but a little less need in this case. But we were also asking a waiver of the second reading. This does come to you also with a unanimous approval of the Lebanon Utility Service Board. Happy to answer questions, and I'm sure any technical issues Mr. Greeno would be happy to address.
Any questions for Mr. Jacob or Mr. Greeno for the council? Rob, can you read the ordinance, please?
Thank you, Mayor Council. Ordinance 2025-07 again is an ordinance modifying the electric utility construction standards. Whereas the City of Lebanon defined as the city owns and operates by and through the Lebanon Utility Service Board, which again is defined as the board, a municipally owned utility known as Lebanon Utilities, defined as utility. Based upon the recommendation of its consultants and staff, the utility recommends the adoption of new updated construction standards for the public utility facility additions to the electric system that are privately constructed for connection to the utility electric system. The revised electric utility construction standards reflect compliance with new laws, regulations, construction techniques, and technology advancements in order to ensure the operation of safe, reliable, and efficient electric utility service. By adopting the attached electric service installation manual standards, the previously adopted standards and revisions should be superseded by the new electric construction standards approved herewith. Whereas additionally, the utility wishes to affirm that the National Electric Safety Code governs the construction of electrical facilities were not in conflict with the electric service installation manual standards. Therefore, be it resolved, this council finds as follows. The attached electric service installation manual standards for privately constructed electric facilities for connection to the utility's electric system and or dedication to the utility are hereby approved. The National Electric Safety Code governs the construction of electrical facilities as nationally recognized standard within Lebanon Utilities electrical system where not in conflict with the electric service installation manual construction standards. Utility shall have a final determination in its sole and exclusive discretion to determine the design, materials, and specification of circumstances not covered or detailed by the electric service installation manual construction standards. And all this is approved and adopted by this council this day, January 27th, 2025.
Thank you, Rob. Ordinance 2025-07 has been read on first reading. Is there any public comment concerning ordinance 2025-07? Okay. Seeing none, any further discussion, comments from council? Any concerns or hesitation in moving this to second reading as well?
I'll make a motion, we suspend the rules and go to the second reading.
We have a motion to suspend the rules on ordinance 2025-07 and move to second reading. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from John. Again, this motion must be unanimous in order to pass. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, that ordinance, or that motion is adopted. We will move ordinance 2025-07 to second reading. Rob just did a great job reading it again for us. Any further discussion, comments from council? Okay, this time then, we'll entertain a motion concerning ordinance 2025-07.
I'll make a motion, we approve ordinance number 2025-07.
Motion to approve, is there a second? Second. Second from Keith. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That ordinance is adopted unanimously. Thank you, council. That concludes what I have for new business. Is there anything from council?
I just have a quick, I know Jason's not here, but I don't know if somebody will see Jason this week. I didn't know if we could potentially get, I don't know if you guys drive on Fordyce very often, but before you get in the construction, I think it's Park Street, Fordyce and Park, they started to do construction there, and the pothole, it's all the way across the road. I don't know, not necessarily a pothole, it's
Trench.
yeah, I know they probably filled it before, but with all the snow and they've plowed it and stuff, I didn't know if we could get some more fill there or something, because it's
We're
really,
aware.
okay,
Yeah, in
I just
fact,
want to make
I think
sure.
a call went out again Friday to have some more fill put in. So
Okay, cool.
I'll drive by in the mornings, make sure that's happened.
Thank you so much. Perfect.
Thank you, Sarah. Any further discussion from council? Any announcements? Okay. Would entertain a motion then concerning the claims.
Motion we pay the claims.
Motion to pay the claims. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Sierra. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, claims are approved. All right, our next city council meeting will be Monday, February 10th at 7:15 p.m. Would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion adjourned from John. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Rob. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, we are adjourned. We will see you in February.